Morning. Well, how are you all? Not a bad morning, a bit warmer than usual. Or not usual, but a bit warmer than has been anyhow the last number of weeks. Though it is 10 to 12, it's almost midday, so I suppose it was a lot colder this morning. So anyway, how are you all? How are you keeping? How is your day going, no matter where you are in the world? I sort of titled today, I don't know why I did it. I titled today who's in control if not God? And I think I'm just going to chat basically on following through, because yesterday I finished my two-part study and look at who is the beast in Revelation and who the beast that is spoken of is, who that son of perdition, that man of sin, who that is. And it's all, we found out it's all the one it's all the one entity, it's all the one person. And I disclosed yesterday who that person was. Anybody who watches it, I'm sure you'll be shocked. However, it is what it is. And I'm now going to spend the next while, and this is on my YouTube channel, it's on my YouTube channel, Judgment Begins at the House of God. And you'll see that. There's a link to it on my Twitter account as well, Charles_J Clark. And we have to understand why the identity of the beast is who we claimed yesterday, and what gives it its power. What gives that beast the power? Son of perdition, the man of sin, to sit in God's holy place, God's temple, declaring himself or herself as God. What gives that power? And I have been doing a series of things and talking on free will and the myth of free will, and how we believe, both secular and Christianity, and mostly all religions believe, that you have a free will, and that free will is so powerful that it can thwart the sovereign will of an all-knowing God. And it's that powerful that he cannot thwart your will. Except Muslim, I don't know, do Muslims believe you have a free will? I don't know, my friend. I'm not altogether confident on that. So, but most of the secular world, as well as Christianity, believe that you have free will. And this free will not only has the power to thwart sovereign God's will, good stuff, it is that powerful that God's sovereign will can't thwart yours either. And this is what the church teaches and the world teach. And there is absolutely no evidence for that whatsoever. God is in complete control of absolutely everything. And God accepts full responsibility throughout Scripture for his creation. We have to be accountable God is responsible. And there's a difference. That's a bit of a sidetrack on where we're going with the whole free will thing. And throughout Scripture, we see, and we have seen, who is in control. I know we don't have free will. I know we don't have free will. Free will means that your decisions are made without any cause whatsoever. You have the choice. I'm not going to question you. You have choice. Choice and free will is completely different. If you look up in the dictionary, any of the dictionaries, you'll see that for free will, you have, it says that basically, I'm not here on a one-to-one, okay, but I will say this to you. I have done this, and there are a mountain of scriptural evidences presented for this fact. There are also no scientific facts. Well, that's up to yourself, fella, but you're not the only one that will be watching and whatever. And I'm trying to drive and read and say what I'm thinking as well. So, I know you are. I know you are. I know you are. But it throws me off when I'm saying. To claim that you have free will is claiming that you can make choices that have absolutely no cause whatsoever, that you have brought about the cause of that choice yourself, and that your will is completely free from having any causality whatsoever. If you make a choice, then there's an effect, and that effect, by law, that effect has to have had a cause, and every cause has to bear and have an effect. And to say that you have free will and to believe that you have free will is to say that you can generate your own choices and your own decisions without any causality whatsoever. And that's not how it works. That doesn't mean that you don't make choice. But for you to make a choice, and in order to make a choice, there has to be a cause to make you make that choice. A cause that causes you to make that choice. And that cause has nothing whatsoever to do with you or me or anyone else for that matter. And the son of perdition, the man of sin, the beast of revelation, as I disclosed yesterday, who sits in God's holy place. We're told that God is the temple. Or we are the temple, sorry. We are God's temple. We are told that we are God's temple, and that God shall live in us. The son of perdition, the man of sin, the beast of revelation, those who elevate themselves in God's holy place, claiming to be God, claiming to have sovereignty, claiming to be in control of their life, of everyone else's life, claiming to be in control of your life. And as we disclosed yesterday, was you. You are the son of perdition. You are the man of sin. You are the beast of revelation that comes up out of the sea. It is you. You are the one who sits in God's holy place, declaring yourself as God. Sovereign over His will, sovereign over His authority, with your tabernacle and your idol of your heart of fabled free will. God is in complete control. He showed it to Moses, And throughout Scripture, Moses was sent to Pharaoh, and he was told to deliver a message to Pharaoh. He was also told that Pharaoh's heart would be hardened by God, and that Pharaoh would not let God's people go. Now, this Israel that we're talking about as well was a shadow of the things to come in Jesus Christ. The Israel of Scripture, the scriptural, spiritual Israel. Jesus Christ and His kingdom, not a geographical location in occupied Palestine in the Middle East. It was a shadow of the things to come. This is the same Israel that Abraham was promised. Jesus is the fulfillment of that. Jesus, when it speaks in the Scripture of Israel, it speaks of Christ and His kingdom. When it speaks of Jerusalem, Jerusalem that is above is our mother, and the Jerusalem below is a harlot and a whore who has many, many, many children, which is the Babylonian system of religion, Christianity. And the beast that comes up out of the sea has been wounded to death, but still lives. I went through all this yesterday. Free will is the tabernacle. Free will is the idol of the heart that all hold, all of us hold. And before there can be anything, there has to be a falling away. And that falling away, that house of sand, spiritual house of sand that is built, must fall. And that falling away will then allow God to unveil to you the beast. And you will see the beast as you stand alone, vulnerable, with God on the sands of the sea. So Pharaoh was told to let God's people go. But Moses was told that Pharaoh's heart would be hardened and that Pharaoh would not release the people of Israel. Who hardened his heart? Did Pharaoh choose? Did Pharaoh make the cause? Did Pharaoh not want to do it? God hardened Pharaoh's heart. We look throughout Scripture, and this is the case, the entirety of Scripture. God hardens hearts. He determines. He is the potter. He determines what He does. Should He make one pot for good? Should He make one pot for bad? That is His choice, His will, His decision, and His prerogative. Because God knows the outcome, and He knows the end. He knows the end result. And those that Christ takes and teaches anew. How's it going, my friend? Those that Christ takes and teaches anew will learn those things and be shown those things by God Himself. And they will build their house, their spiritual house, upon that rock, that revelation, and not of Jesus Christ, and not on the idols of the heart of religion and religiosity and tradition and doctrines. Hey, I didn't read your last post on my last video, and it was only when I seen the replay that I actually realized who you are. Good. Greetings, my friend. Greetings. Jesus Christ also came, and Jesus Christ says that he came to do the will of the Father, and that he was unable to do anything unless the Father willed it. We look at the apostles. The apostles all refuted Christ when Christ turned around at the Last Supper, and Christ told them that day that they would, he told them that day that they would all forsake him, and they all denied that. No, we will not. We are choosing that we are going to stand by you. We will never leave you. We will never forsake you. Before the day was out, all had forsaken Christ. All of them had went against their own will. All of them had left and abandoned Christ. They did not have free will. They made choice, and their choice to abandon Christ was caused by fear of the man around them and the situation that was around them. Paul was on the road to Damascus, hell-bent on going to destroy the church that was there, to murder and torture and imprison women, children, and innocent men who were in Damascus and Syria. He was hell-bent on going to destroy the church. His mind had been made up, and he was going to do it because that's what he did. Saul did those things, and Saul, even in his own testimony, thought that as being works of the law. He was a zealot. He had made his mind up that that's what he was going to do, as he had done previous on many, many, many occasions. Hola, hola. I think that's hola. I can hardly see. These aren't my reading glasses. But Paul, or Saul, was struck down on that road in his will as he was going to Damascus. He was struck down and converted in under a minute by Christ. And he then went out blinded, but he then went out and his will had been changed completely after the blindness had been lifted from him. He didn't go to the apostles to ask the apostles for permission. Christ had given him permission. Christ had converted him, and Christ had changed his will and shown him that Christ is supreme, that God the Father's will must be done, and that your free will is a fable and a myth and will be overruled when Christ or the Father decides that it has to be overruled. This is the whole way throughout Scripture. The whole way throughout Scripture. And I look at my own life, and every single time that I, Charles Clark, made plans, every time that I made plans, God laughed at me. Absolutely and utterly laughed at me. And still laughs at me. To the point now where I do not make plans unless I follow it by God willing. As we're instructed in Scripture, in the New Testament, do not say that you will go into this town and you will set up business and you will trade there and you will make money. Like the heathens, rather say that you, if God wills, that you shall go and do so and so. And my life is completely and utterly changed to the point where, God willing, I shall be there. God willing, that shall happen. God willing, because it is not my will, but it is the Father's will that has to be done. And I have to accept the Father's will regardless of what I feel. No matter how difficult it is, no matter how bitter it is to me to taste, no matter how hard it is for me to swallow, I have to accept His will. That's it. If I don't, what happens? Do I have my will? I do not. I was leading my life quite content, doing what I was doing, involved, as I have said in my testimony, in organisations, in conflict, in war, in power, driven by an ego that was so big that I had already risen to levels within the organisation that I was in at such a young age. I was a drinker, I was a fornicator, I was a playboy, because the area where I lived, we were seen as the good guys, we were seen as the heroes, and that made us extremely, extremely desirable for people to be around, for people to be seen with us, and for girls and women to be with us. We were the boys, and by God, we milked that. We could walk into places when everybody else was refused. We went to a nightclub and no one else was allowed in, or everyone else had to queue. We were brought straight in. Am I Banksy? Yeah. Yeah. I couldn't draw a breath at times, mate. We were brought in, given pride of place. Most of the times we didn't even have to pay for drink. Wherever we went, we were the boys, we were the guys, we were seen as the main men. And what we did outside of that proved that we were the main men. Don't get me wrong, we were extremely ruthless. Extremely ruthless. In my life, I was out doing those things. I wasn't thinking about God. I wasn't thinking about sitting in my car on the way to work talking about free will and the son of perdition. We were plotting and planning and scheming attacks, violence, operations, military operations, murder. And I'll tell you this, God stopped me dead and overrode my will. So I know exactly what I'm talking about when I'm saying about free will. I know what I'm talking about when I'm saying about us being the man of sin. So did Paul. Paul was the same. Of sinners, I am the worst. I can agree. I can say that wholeheartedly, that I also fall into that category. What do you think in your heart, so are you. You mightn't manifest it in the flesh, but if you think it in your heart, it will always, always, always. Yeah, cool, yeah. It's the same. Christ, I told you, Christ doesn't pick the good ones. Christ picks the stinkers. And if Christ has picked you, and the Father has picked you, and chosen you out of those picked, and chosen you out of that, I would bet my life on it. Yeah, certainly, bro. I did the second part yesterday on YouTube, on the Beast of Revelation. Well worth a watch. It's a hard pill to swallow, but it's the free will that empowers the beast. And unfortunately, not everybody who is in the church will recognize the beast. A lot of them don't realize that they have left their first love. if you say to me that you haven't left your first love, you haven't, well then I'm not talking to you. The Bible's not talking to you. Revelation's not talking to you. But you will leave your first love. And all these things will be shown to you. Jeez, I get very tired about Jack to leave the Lord of Jackson. I know all about it. I know all about it. He will bring you around and bring you about. And we discussed this yesterday on my YouTube video. Christ, you're called into the church, and when you're brought into the church, you're taught, you're called out of the world and you're into the church. And when you're in the church, inevitably that church, that system, that Babylonian system that you have been called into will inevitably take you full circle to where you end up leaving your first love. Where you will then start to use the traditions and the religion and the teachings and the doctrines of Christianity as your idols. And they will become the idols of your heart. And that is how He does it. And when you realize that, God will pull you out of that church. And I mean the church, Christianity as a whole. He will pull you out of it. He tells us to come out from her, my people, that you do not partake of her abominations. And we also touched yesterday that He doesn't say the 7 letters to 7 churches in Revelation, 7 letters. He says that they do many wondrous works. He's saying that a lot of the stuff that they do is good. However, every single one of them have left their first love. Every single one of them. And when you talk about the 7 churches, the 7 churches is symbolic of the entirety of the whole church throughout all the generations. And what he is saying is that the entire church have left their first love. We have all left it, and at some point our spiritual house built on the sand will fall. We will look back, we will see the beast that comes up out of the sea, and we will then we will make war with it. We will be caused to make war with it, and we will be overcome by it. And then Father picks us up. We return onto our first love. We take our place with those that are in the heavens. We have the mind of Christ, and we are taught directly by the Father Himself through His Christ, and we then begin to build our spiritual house on the rock and the foundation that is Jesus Christ and His revelation. That's the process. That's how it works. That's what's happening in my life. That's what happened in the entire early church's life. That is what happened in Paul's life. That is what happened in all the apostles' lives. It's there. Read it. And that is what will happen in your life if you are chosen. You will realize that you do not have free will, and that God has always, always, always been in control. Jeremiah 1:5. I knew you in your mother's womb. I knew you in your mother's womb. I have that on my baby's headstone on his grave. Jeremiah 1:5. I knew you in your mother's womb. And I have the phrase that I penned, the epitaph that I penned, was even though we didn't see you smile, He did. Even though that we did not see you smile, He, God, did. Before the beginning of creation, exactly, same here. Exactly the same here, bro. Exactly the same here. But He has His hand on you, and I know He has His hand on you because you're sticking me. You're watching me every time that you come on, and you're listening to what He is doing in my life. And I know that He has His hand on your life, bro. And He will hold you up. He will withhold you. He that is able to keep you from falling will uphold you and will bring you. Before creation, before the Father, even, here's one, before the Father even created the Christ, you were in His mind. You were in the mind of the Father before He even spoke. He was thinking about you. Yeah, sometimes they say it's better to answer a fool with silence, isn't it? But I'm telling you, God is in control completely and utterly. The church tries to get us to believe that God is all powerful, all knowing, sovereign, and omnipotent, omnipresent, omnipotent. And He made a creation that malfunctioned. All powerful, all knowing, ever living God who created the expanse of the universe got it wrong when He made when He made humanity. He got it wrong. It malfunctioned. It went kaput. And it further teaches that He doesn't take responsibility for it. It couldn't be any further from the truth, my friends. God accepts full responsibility for His creation. He takes all into His response. He has prepared the end from the very beginning. Before He created the outcome, before He even created the cause. You see, those are the things that will draw you onto requiring knowledge, and you'll start to ask God and start to question these things. God made the world in 6 days, 6 physical 24-hour days. It's laughable. We know that the world itself is about 4.5 billion years old. Science has proved that. Science has also now proved that it came from a blast, the Big Bang. I call it a god-awful blast, when God timed that moment so perfectly to bring that out of creation. Church teaches that God made it out of nothing. No, he didn't. Scripture says that he took it from himself. He made it from him, out of the invisible. Because it's invisible doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. Everything in creation was made from him. They reckon that the universe is about 16.5 billion years old. What if it is? What if the world is 4.5 billion years old? How does that disprove God? It doesn't disprove God. It shows a God who laboured and laboured and laboured over time to bring about his purpose and his plan. It shows a God that is teaching his people how to have patience and long suffering when he did it himself. The fruits of the Spirit are there in creation. It didn't just happen like that. So there's an awful lot of what Christianity teaches is wrong. And it will cause you to question. And it will cause you to look to God and go deeper to God. And God will show you those answers. He will give you those answers. Hello, hello. And he will show you exactly what he did and the mysteries of his kingdom. He will show you all these things. Man isn't 6,000 years old. We know that. But what we have is a church who teaches a doctrine that before anybody can even open the book, science has already disproved that it's fake. What chance do you have? What chance do you have? When Scripture is taught properly, science backs it up. Science actually backs up Scripture and God's account of creation. When it's taught properly. When it is taught properly. That's a whole other area. And there are only two things on this earth that Scripture says that God actually created and made himself. Everything else was commanded to bring it forth. The earth was commanded to bring forth all the beasts of the sea and the air and everything else. Again, science proves that. It came from sludge, sea sludge. Christ was involved in the creation of two things that he says that he actually created. And that was millions and millions of years ago, the monsters, the dinosaurs. And I have the exact thing for that. I don't have it now to hand, but I'll touch on that again. And humans, humanity. Those are the two things that he had to direct. Everything else was commanded to be brought forth from the earth. The earth had everything in it in order to bring everything forth at the command of Christ. God is in control of his entire creation. His entire creation. And he takes responsibility for everything. And he will show you completely and unequivocally that your fabled free will is the power that gives the sovereignty, the fabled sovereignty, to the beast of Revelation. You, my friends, do not have free will. And I put this to you. Did you choose to watch me today? Of your own accord? Did you create that cause in your own domain? Or did you have a cause that caused you to watch this video? Listen, my friends, I wish you all the very best. I encourage you to watch my videos on YouTube as well, and to tie in with me as well on Twitter. There you go. There's one of my slips again, Freudian slips. On Twitter with a TW. And amen, brother, amen. And on Twitter at Charles_J Clark, and that's Clark with an E. I look forward to seeing you again, guys, and I wish you all the very best. God bless, and I see you soon.